Ross Buchanan and Adam Evans, as you mentioned, as well. Likewise, Steve and Matthew Ramsden, they're very successful over on the roads as well. So
yeah, I recognise their name from the roads, that's for sure. Okay, watch the lights is the call from Mr. Matthews, who scurries behind into the safety of the start post. Everybody is off the line very sharply indeed. Looks like the grid is pretty much running as it was. I was just everybody's got their lights on, their rain lights on. It's almost like it's compulsory, but I didn't think the sidecars had to run the rain lights unless it was actually raining, of course. Maybe they just want to let their rivals know that they're very close to them or something. Who's leading the way as they come past you? It looked like good start for Kershaw and Gibbons there, mate, on the number
Kershaw and Gibbons.
20. Yep.
Kershaw and Gibbons do lead the way on the number 29, ahead of, I believe that was number 87 of Carl Fenwick and Jake Roberts, who are up next. So local man, of course, Carl Fenwick from Scunthorpe again, so another Lincolnshire competitor here this weekend. Number 87, Carl Fenwick, is right up there in contention. In fact, I think he may have just dropped down to third place now, but I can see the number 9 of Kieran Clark and Andrew Johnson. They're right there with them in fourth position, in fact. And we're looking for Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy there, who are leading the way now. So Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy, the number 17, now lead this race in the opening stages ahead of the number 29 of Stephen Kershaw and Rhys Gibbons. But through the chicane they go, and there's not really any gaps between any of the outfits, Keith. It's very much a freight train heading towards the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all picking up a good slipstream somewhere along the way, I would have thought. No great challenges coming into the bottom of the mountain there. They're a little bit closer in the midfield. Three outfits very close indeed together there. But I think they're all getting in a 22-mile race, and that's really going to give the drivers and indeed the passengers a decent workout. So to the line they come then for the first of the 10 laps, and it is indeed Crawford and Hardy who lead the way ahead of Kershaw and Gibbons, Fenwick and Roberts, Clark and Johnson. Then is Soares and Stoko, first here in this championship. Great result for them. They lead Dawson and Sims, fellow cup riders, Lockie and Benz up next, and Schofield, Astley, Heaney and Ludlow, and then Reading and Brian. Lockie and Benz up next, and Schofield, Astley, Hegarty and Ludlow, and then running in top 10 is the Bryan and Hyde outfit there as well. Great movers and shakers. Morford and Ryder make up 3. Schofield and Smith lose 3. Total of 19 bikes across the line there, and everybody's made it round safely for the first time. Do you think we're going to see anything of a challenge there? It looks like a bit of a battle there for the 6th place there. Actually, quite a few outfits very close in time as they came across the line there, Bradley.
I must admit, Keith, I have no idea what you said, because these screaming 600s, I couldn't hear anything else but them. So, whatever you said, I'm sure is 100% accurate. So Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy, they lead the way out of Mansfield in towards the chicane now, ahead of Kershaw and Gibbons. Then it is Carl Fenwick up next in third position on the yellow number 87, ahead of Kieran Clark and Andrew Johnson. 5th place is the number 96 of James Saunders and Sarah Stoko, ahead of Bob Dawson and is that Matthew Sims there, I believe it is. Matthew Sims there, pairing from York in 6th position, but in towards the bottom of the mountain now. Looks like a challenge there further down the order, but you're right about those range lights. I suppose it makes them easy to spot, but Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy, they're really trying to stretch their advantage, and they're trying to run away already.
I do wonder if it's slightly distracting for the outfits bikes. They're extremely bright LED tail lights, and hey, it is what it is at the end of the day. If you can run them on at the end of not going to hurt anybody. 35.860 for Crawford and Hardy across the line there. That gives them the lead by 3 seconds ahead of Kershaw and Gibbons there. Fenwick and Roberts are indeed in third place there. Interesting progression of laps there actually. 35.8 for the leaders, 37.9 for the second, 39.9 for the third, 39.3 though for the 4th place. So watch that battle. There's only 0.2 of a second separating third and 4th there. We could be on for a bit of a battle. Also behind them, Saunders and Soko and Dawson and Sims. We could have a scrap there for the cup prizes as well, mate.
The battle for third place, I was watching them as they came out of Charlie's and onto Park Straight, and likewise Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy, I was watching them as they get the power down out of Charlie's and onto this Park Straight, and I tell you what, they really do grab that LCR Suzuki by the scruff of the neck, because they just keep a pin, have it banging off the rev limiter, and it just seems to work for them there, out in front of the race as they go in towards the chicane now. But in that battle for third place, it is now Kieran Clark and Andrew Johnson on their CES Yamaha, ahead of the Shelbourne Yamaha of Carl Fenwick and Jake Roberts. So that is a change now for third place. The fluorescent orange, the Eddie's Moto of Tadcaster supported machine into the bottom of the mountain now, ahead of Carl Fenwick and Jake Roberts.
Yep, they're working their way through and clambering over the top past the spectators. They're big spectator crowd here today. We've got a lot of interest in this meeting. I'm not surprised. It is pretty much our blue ribbon event. It really is. And obviously, as you saw this morning, you get a great view through those hall bends if you take the trouble to go out the back there, don't you, Bradley? We went for a little bit of a wander this morning and watching him go through the left-right flick there, absolutely spectacular stuff. Oh, blimey, Lee Crawford is absolutely flying there. Another fastest lap, goes purple and yellow, but still does a 35.844, 37.461 for Kershaw and Gibbons behind him, 38.787. So, and then behind, I think Fenwick and Roberts have been dropped a little bit there, because now Clark and Johnson are past. They're going to go chasing after Kershaw, but they're about 4.5 seconds gap, so quite a bit of chasing to do, even though we got the 10 laps to do it in there. Slow lap in relative terms there for Fenwick and Roberts, actually about 0.6 of a second slower than their previous best. Everybody else is pretty much going quicker than they were before. Saunders and Stoko, similar gap back to Dawson and Sims of 0.8 as it was the previous lap. Very close lap times indeed. But Crawford and Hardy, wow, you can see why these guys are leading the race. They're absolutely flying out there, aren't they, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. They're already underneath the bridge and in towards the foot of the mountain once again, so through the left, and there's a lot of camber in that left-hander as well, so they'll certainly be carrying the speed there before flicking over to the right and over the top of the mountain, where again, I'm sure that Suzuki 600 will be bouncing off the limiter as it races towards Paul Benz.
Yeah, Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy there, another purple for them at Sector 1 as well. I have to say, I think back markers might be coming into play here. Nobody's too slow around, being sub 1 minute 50, but such is the pace over 10 laps. I wouldn't be surprised if our leaders close them down. We'll wait and see. Another fastest lap there for Crawford and Hardy. Again, I don't have the lap records to hand, but I've got to think that 35.5 they've just done is a spectacular time. Kershaw and Gibbons go a little bit slower this time. Only we're talking by hundredths of a second there. Clark and Johnson, though, they go a little bit quicker than their previous best, but not as much as the team in front of them. So that gap's not going to change. They're all starting to spread out now. But again, that main battle I think we've got, mate, is for the leader in the Cup. Saunders and Stoko, Dawson and Sims separated by 0.6 of a second as Dawson Sims' machine goes a little bit quicker than their rivals in front of them. Bit further back, Haggerty and Ludlow having a good battle with Bryan and Hyde as well. They're almost side by side across the line. In fact, that's probably the closest battle on the track, that one for 10th place, and the points that go with it, of course. Yeah, no, the Bryan and Hyde are actually in a different class of the Cup runners of Haggerty and Ludlow, so as they're relatively inexperienced in this class, Haggerty and Ludlow will be the ones with a grin on their face as the leaders trip the timing beam over the back there. And once again, we see the lead outfit with that nearly 7 second lead. He's got to the bottom of the mountain as the second place outfit comes into sight. So you need about 7 seconds to manage that particular feat. So I think we're going to be seeing a similar gap back to the third place outfit of Clark and Johnson. I think they seem to have the measure of Fenwick and Roberts at this stage. Then we've got that battle. This is the main battle on the track between these two. The white outfit just in front there of Saunders and Stoko, but Dawson and Sims all over the back of them this time. It's the 96 and 97 machines respectively, so numerically they're in the correct order as far as James and Sarah go, but Rob and Matt would like to do something about that. And that outfit is sponsored by Dawson's Classic Motorcycle as well. I don't know what sort of classic motorcycles he runs, but it clearly does that at pedal left 2 outfit very rapidly indeed. They come across the line separated by 0.4 of a second this particular time round. So we're now 5 laps into the race. We're at the halfway point of this particular event. And battle for 5th place is going to be heading towards you by now, Bradley.
Yeah, got them here, and in fact it's Dawson and Sims who are now in front of James Saunders and Sarah Stoko. So the 97 now leads the 96 in the battle for 5th place overall, but more importantly, first of the Cup runners. So first at the moment then is Dawson and Sims ahead of the 96 of James Saunders and Sarah Stoko as they go up towards Park Corner once again on the plunge down in towards Mansfield. That is a relatively lonely 3rd place for 3rd on track, 3rd in the Supers. That is Kieran Clark and Andrew Johnson. Carl Fenwick and Jake Roberts just a few seconds behind now as they race towards the chicane. But here comes that battle for 5th position and first of the Cup runners. It is still Dawson and Sims ahead of Saunders and Stoko. But Wayne Lockie and Ben Binns, the number 4 behind them, only by 3.2 seconds. I think they may be closing up in the first sector on this one. No, it's opened up by a little bit as well, so nothing to worry about there. It's going to be a two-way scrap for the lead in the Cup. Steve and Matthew Ramsden make their way down in towards Mansfield now, and they are currently running in 8th of the Supers, and that is 15th position overall for the father and son pairing from Headland Bridge. But already I can see the leaders coming past me now. So we have completed 6 laps. We're on lap 7 of 10, and on that previous lap we can see that Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy opened up their advantage by another 0.9 of a second over the number 29 of Stephen Kershaw and Reese Gibbons. Here comes Kieran Clark and Andrew Johnson on the number 9, the fluorescent orange machine, getting a little bit squirrely as on the exit of Charlie's as they apply the power. Carl Fenn, Jake Roberts up next. So that is your top 4 overall and in the Supers. Next up will be that battle for the race lead in the Cup, and it looks as though that Rob Dawson and Matthew Sims have opened up their advantage to around about half a second over the 96 of James Saunders and Sarah Stoko.
Yeah, they went 0.8 of a second quicker on that last lap, actually, mate. So, yeah, right now that they've got that clear track in front of them, well, relatively clear track, because they've got 10 seconds before they catch Fenwick and Roberts, they are absolutely making the most of that advantage and pouring the power on there. In terms of the fastest lap, there's only fractions of a second between them, but Saunders and Stoko could be a tyre thing. I don't know how badly these things eat through their rubber. I would have thought that 10 laps is quite doable on the fat rubber that they run, but you know, those different compounds and things like that. Certainly that was the main change. The other one who had a problem on that lap was Laria and Gale. They lost 4 places that time round. So did Morfitt and Ryder as well. Steve and Matty Ramsden went up a couple of places on that particular lap. So it's all chopping and changing towards the back. I wonder if a few people might have had a little bit of a through the chicane type moment. Certainly Dawson's and Sims, though, they are now with that empty track in front of them. They've gone green in sector 1. It'll be interesting to see up that gap, because it was just under half a second over the line last time. This time it is out to 9.9 at the sharp end of the field. Everybody's into the 37s now, 39s for Clark and Johnson there, 40s for Fenwick and Roberts. So I wonder if there's a certain amount of tiredness in rider, passenger and tyres all playing their part. Dawson and Sims over the line. They have gone double green for a PB of 40.633, so not quite as quick as the team in front of them that time around, and they're still about 0.7 of a second slower than, so I don't think you're going to make up that 11-second gap in the 3 laps that we've got right left. But the more important thing as far as they're concerned is that they've opened up the gap to nearly 2 seconds between themselves and Saunders and Stoko. So that was probably the last seriously good battle we had on the track here, by the look of it, because the other runners and riders coming along and quite spread out. You were predicting a really close race at the front, and you're right, the qualifying times would have suggested that Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy would have had the fight taken very much to them by Stephen Kershaw and Reese Gibbons, but unfortunately in the race that's not proved to be the case at all. Looks like Lee and Scott are about 2 seconds quicker than their rivals in terms of the overall fastest lap. They did a 35.4 and everybody's in the 37s earlier, so maybe Kershaw and Gibbons peaked in qualifying this morning. They've just done a fastest PB of 37.298, which is a little bit quicker than they qualified in, but unfortunately Crawford and Hardy have found something a bit extra when it really matters, and of course that is the race, isn't it? Because qualifying's all very well, but it's the race you want to win, isn't it, Bradley?
It certainly helps out in your championship hopes, doesn't it, winning the race? But Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy are certainly going the right way about it, because as you said there, in fact, it was a personal best for Kershaw and Gibbons on that previous lap. It's all in vain at the moment, as we are on lap number 9 of 10, so this is the penultimate lap, as through goes Carl Fenwick and Jake Roberts. That is the 4th position on the road. And Carl Fenwick, of course, as we mentioned, a local man here to Cadwell. He's currently 4th at the moment. 4.7 seconds adrift from Kieran Clark and Andrew Johnson. But more importantly, 11.7 seconds up the road from Rob Dawson and Matthew Sims. Saunders and Stoko, Lockie and Binns. And Wayne Lockie and Ben Binns are only 1.5 seconds adrift now from the number 96 of Saunders and Stoko. So James Saunders and Sarah Stoko, of course, they are in a different class from the number 4 of Wayne Lockey and Ben Binns, but nonetheless, there's an outfit in front, you want to beat it. It's as simple as that. So the top 4 now, all through the chicane for the penultimate time. There is the number 97 of Rob Dawson and Matty Sims in towards Mansfield now. The 97 there, just heading towards the chicane. 96, that is James Saunders and Sarah Stoker, the white outfit, out of Mansfield and into the chicane now. And I'll tell you what, Keith, it's a battle on circuit as opposed to in class, but when Binns, they are closing the gap.
Yeah, you're right. When you mentioned that, I had a look at the screen, mate. In the previous lap, they did actually go a second quicker. Their fastest laps are very similar to within hundredths of a second, but Lockey and Binns are closing by over a second last time. We also lost the number 32 machine, unfortunately, of Ilman and Oldroyd, to join Morford, Ryder and Buchanan and Evans in retirement alley. It's a great shame for them as the last lap flag now comes out. Crawford and Hardy, Kershaw and Gibbons, Clark and Johnson, Fenwick and Roberts have all received that last lap. Now we wait for Dawson and Sims. Here they go across the line. And here comes that battle. You're right, Saunders and Stoker. The gap was a second and a half last time to Lockey and Binns. This time it's half a second. So looks like Saunders and Stoker could be giving us a grandstand finish with Lockey and Binns there. I'll let them come past you, mate, because that's the only battle on the track I think is going to go to the flag, really.
I've got Dawson and Sims coming past me now, but here is that battle we're talking about, the 96 and the number 4. That's James Saunders and Sarah Stoker, just using all the track and a little bit more. And I'm sure they'll be getting the invoice ready to send to MSV for the grass cutting services here on the exit of Charlie's. But already up towards Park Corner now goes the number 96 of James Saunders and Sarah Stoker. But Wayne Lockey and Ben Binns, they do seem to be stronger over the top end of the circuit, and that is Park Corner, Chris Curve and the Gooseneck down into Mansfield. That seems to be where they're making up the time. But it does seem as though Saunders and Stoker have had the hurry up now, because that gap is just hovering around about that half a second. In fact, diving for the inside line down into Mansfield, Wayne Lockey and Ben Binns, they do make the move.
Okay, let's see if they manage to pull that off. They're going to be coming out under the bridge towards me for one last time and see if that white outfit's in front. No, it's not. The white outfit has indeed been relegated, so losing 2 places in the closing laps. Lee Crawford and Scott Hardy have indeed taken the checkered flag. No surprise there. As we wait for the rest of the runners and riders to come across, Kershaw and Gibbons, they will retain their lead in the championship, but Crawford and Hardy have dealt them a 5-point blow there, so they'll be looking to capitalise on that in the forthcoming races. Clark and Johnson hold on for 3rd, and it's Fenwick and Roberts. We're waiting for the cup winners of Dawson and Sims to come towards us, which they duly do. And then I think we're going to be seeing Lockey and Binns. Yep, indeed we do. It's only for a class loss. It makes no difference to Saunders and Stoker, but you're still going to be annoyed getting beaten by somebody on the last lap. Wait for the rest of the runners to come across the line to round out the top 10. Should be Bryan and Hyde, Hegarty and Ludlow, and then the Ramsden father and son team, indeed it is, who actually make up a place as Hegarty and Ludlow get relegated on the last lap. So not sure what happened to Hegarty Ludlow there, but something of a bit of a glitch in the matrix for them, as Schofield and Smith also beat more and more across the line as well by 0.3 of a second. So in the clothing lap, a few people did manage to find a little bit of extra time, which is obviously what you find and when you need to find it.